Welcome to RFI's Banking Uncovered, the podcast going behind the industry PR, the media spin, the product awards, and the investor reports to look at what's really going on in the customer data, and to ask global thought leaders about their thoughts and views on the future of banking and payments. Hi, Chloe James here from Banking Uncovered. We are really excited to welcome Wise to the podcast today. Surendra Chaplot, who is the Global Head of Product. Massive job at Wise, obviously one of the most successful fintech brands out there globally. Surendra, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Chloe. It's wonderful to be here on the Banking Uncovered podcast today.
Great. We are chatting, I should say, between Australia and Singapore, but obviously Surendra looks after the global product. So we're going to dip into the UK. We're going to talk a little bit about Asia and talk all about the product. So I just wanted to kick off with the pretty astounding success that Wise, I should say formerly TransferWise, has seen of late. You very recently reported a 280% increase in profits, which congratulations, that's amazing. I just wanted to start with what it is like to be a part of that kind of success.
Yeah, it's been an incredible journey, honestly. I've been now at Wise for about 6.5 years, which is probably longer than I have spent anywhere else. And I still feel like we are only just getting started. Wise is actually truly a unique company in how incredibly customer focused we've been all throughout 13 years of our existence. Kind of everything that we do kind of starts with a customer problem and customers telling us a problem that they're facing, specifically around managing their money across borders. And each of the products that we've introduced over a number of years have been to solve that problem. And for me to personally to be part of that journey, like I started off in a team which was kind of looking after our product in East Asia. So I launched the product in Hong Kong and Japan, then got to work on a number of different products along the way. Again, solving the same same problem of money without borders. And just to kind of summarize the journey for Wise over the last few years, we obviously started as trying to solve for allowing customers and businesses to send money across borders. There was a lot of hidden fees in traditional ways of sending money across borders. People were losing billions of dollars in trying to send money to their family, to their friends, or to other businesses to pay for bills. And we thought this is an incredibly useful problem to solve for, which is what we did for a number of years. And then about 6-ish years ago, just before I joined, we started building the Wise account for both consumers and businesses, because we realized that the problem of money across borders is also not just in sending money, but also when you receive money and when you spend that money with a debit card. There was a lot of hidden fees and a lot of charges that customers were facing when they were trying to receive money from different people around the world. So we started building solutions which allows them to receive like a local with different local account details that they can just give to their friends or family or their clients and get paid locally. And then we also launched a debit card that goes along with it, which again lets you spend money anywhere in the world like a local, which means that you'll be charged a very low transparent fee from Wise, and then you will be able to pay any vendor in any currency with that debit card. And then of late, one product that I have personally been part of and I'm incredibly proud of is a product called Assets, which allows you to make the money that you're keeping with Wise work for you. Again, traditionally, we have seen that when you keep your money with various traditional financial institutions, you get little to no return on that money. With Wise, again, we follow the same principles of transparency, which is you get the return that you should be getting on the money, and Wise will take a small, transparent fee on it. And again, we've just launched this product in UK, Europe, parts of Europe, and Singapore, and we've seen again customers being delighted with it, that we brought transparency to another part of their financial ecosystem. So yeah, it's been fun to be part of all of these products as well as we have grown, and I have learned a lot along the way as well.
Absolutely. I love that. I love the story of the success. 6.5 years with the business. I mentioned to you, I've interviewed Christo Carmen, the founder of Wise, formerly TransferWise, a number of times. And during one of our first interviews, I obviously got to know the product. And then I used it a couple of weeks later. I was transferring some money to a friend to pay for a ticket to Glastonbury. She was living in London and I was living in Australia. And then I managed to thank Christos. That was my first experience with the product, which, like I mentioned to you, was probably actually a good 6-ish years ago. And it's interesting to see how much the product suite has grown since then. You know, you're global head of product, so you look after absolutely all of those things. I love the sound of the product assets.
Yeah.
And your point very much of it was all about the customer problem, right? Which is the greatest fintechs, the greatest innovative companies, all time disruptors. It starts with the customer problem and then comes back, and that's obviously
Yeah.
where your Steely focus is. You mentioned that that product had come out in the UK. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the UK as well. Bringing in some RFI data, we see the data that customers who use money transfer apps like Wise are 75% more likely to be considering or looking to switch their main bank compared to those who don't use fintechs at all, say.
Yeah.
So this is obviously a huge threat to those high street banks. How does Wise react when competitor products are launched, basically very similar to a Wise product, from a main street bank and brand who obviously have
Yeah.
that embedded customer? So I'm thinking of HSB, for example, launching Zing. Do you think others are going to follow suit? And then I also want to come on to what are the advantages of using Wise. So a little bit about those high street brands creating
Yeah.
products very much like your own.
So generally speaking, we really welcome all new competition, whether it's a traditional bank, coming into the space, or it's another fintech that wants to solve this problem of money without borders. But what we always look for is generally like how much more transparency is being brought about in this market for customers, because the research that we have done also shows that customers are still losing over 180 billion pounds in hidden fees when they're transferring money or receiving money or sending money, spending money across borders. That's a lot of money that customers are losing today. Wise today helps customers save about 1.6 billion pounds a year. So we are very, very early stages in solving this problem. As I often say, like we are almost only just getting started, because today we move about 5% of the money for the consumer. So there is a lot more to be done, and a lot of money still moves on on traditional platforms which are not transparent. HSBC themselves, like again, if you tried using them, this is something I tried in January. If you tried using them, sending money with HSBC, you would see almost 3.5% hidden fees in what they were charging. So I'm absolutely thrilled if Zing is brought about in the market, and they truly disrupt this and charge customers something more fair.
Yeah.
To give you a sense of the scale, Wise's average fees today is 0.65%. That is 7 times cheaper than what HSBC is charging in hidden fees, right? So there is a lot of room for other players to come in and solve this problem, but because the problem has only been solved very, very, it's only the early days for solving this problem. The other fact I would say is that over the last 15 years, Wise has spent a lot of time rebuilding some of the core money movement, payment rails. The way Wise operates is we have tons of different local integrations, sometimes directly into payment systems around the world. So, for instance, in the UK, we are directly connected to fast payment systems.
Yeah.
Same in Singapore. Very recently, we launched this in Australia as well, where we are directly connected to NPP. What that allows us to do is drastically reduce our own costs.
Mm.
Also offer payments which are instant in nature, because typically these payment systems are instant, and pass those savings back to customers.
Yeah.
So for any traditional bank or any other player to come in and invest in building the same kind of infrastructure, it's going to be time consuming and difficult to do. And again, but still, it's overall good for the consumers and businesses. So we definitely do welcome them into the market.
Absolutely. It's the finest form of flattery, isn't it? Competition.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I truly appreciate that more and more traditional banks are trying to do this, but the core problem that they must solve is the transparency that's needed in this market. And unless they solve that, whether it's through their own apps or a new platform that they build, this problem is not going to go away and be solved for customers.
Yeah. So the team in Asia has obviously grown significantly recently. I've seen some major hires across Singapore. Obviously, a lot happening in that market. Can you just chat me through a little bit about sort of the Asian market, the growth there? And I also wanted to couple that with some RFI research again showing that 1 in 5 consumers across Asia send remittances between countries. We've spoken about that already. 45% of those, from what we see in our research, are using digital apps, but the banks still have 75% of that. So they still have such a big portion. There's obviously a hugely strong digital appetite for digital in Asia. What does Wise do to sort of compete with that and try and, grow the use of Wise's products against some of those bigger banks?
Yeah. So for me personally, like I've been based in Singapore all of my time here in Wise. So I've seen this growth, both in terms of the number of people we have over here in our office here. Like when I joined, we were less than 10 people in the Singapore office. Now we are close to 500. So there's been an incredible focus from within Wise as well, to kind of build for this part of the world and build it here. Like we have all of the teams that are building for Asia Pacific based out of Singapore. And in fact, we have various small hubs in spread out across Asia as well. Because again, we see this as a huge market where again traditionally customers were not served, with a good product. So we want to obviously change that, and we've been trying to tackle it in two different ways. I would say one is by going deep into integrating into things into various apps and ecosystems that customers are already using today. So as you might already know that in Asia, wallets are a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
Consumers use wallets for their day-to-day, purchases for pretty much everything in various parts of Asia. And so with Wise, what you've done is basically when somebody is sending money into Asia, into all of these countries like be it Indonesia, Malaysia, Vietnam, Philippines, India, even you can send that directly to various wallets. Which is what a lot of the receivers or people on the other side are actually using today. Which allows anybody sitting in the UK or Australia or the US sending money back home to be able to send it where it can be used by the person directly rather than having to go through a bank account.
Yeah.
So that's one way. The other way that we are trying to solve this is that a lot of people, as your research correctly showed, still use traditional banks for remittances. And again, over the number of years, we've built a money movement infrastructure that can do this at a fraction of a cost and a much faster speed. And we're now trying to go and speak with these traditional institutions and asking them that, hey, you could be offering your customers a much, much better product, a much superior product for a fraction of a cost with a very little simple to integration with the Wise platform product.
Yeah.
We have gotten quite a bit of success, I think, in this part of the world. In Indonesia, for example, Bank Mandiri, which is probably the largest or the second largest bank in all of Indonesia with hundreds of millions of customers.
Yeah.
They have integrated with Wise platform. So their customers, when they're trying to send money, they will never have to leave the Mandiri app and they will be able to do this.
It goes through, it's integrated, fully integrated. Yeah.
Exactly. Same in South Korea with Shinhan Bank. We've done this with a number of digital banks that have come up, like Aspire in Singapore, Mox recently in Hong Kong, and so on and so forth, which allows us to reach our customers where they already are, right? Like
Yeah.
you don't want them to be, you don't want them to necessarily leave what they like and enjoy using, right? Just to send that money. So I think that's going to also fuel the next, the next round of growth for Wise, and also help customers use the benefits of the platform that we've built in a much more convenient manner.
Yeah, I mean, marrying the two together is absolutely perfect. Something else I wanted to talk to you about was trust. And
Yes.
obviously, we see that so much research shows that the trust in financial services providers to keep your details safe, your money safe. I mean, that's something that the traditional brands just they have a hold on that. But if we can couple that with the brilliant offering of Wise and those super low fees, and that's basically the perfect storm, right?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, as a financial institution, obviously, we care about the amount of trust that customers put in us as well, right? Like
Of course, yeah.
today, customers are holding, I think, close to 10 billion pounds or more, maybe more than that, in Wise accounts around the world. That's a lot of money,
Yeah.
and we do take that responsibility quite seriously.
Of course.
And what that means is that we invest in across all of my teams, like this is one of the core pillars that we work in, that we need to invest in building features that gives customers, this feeling of trust and also protects their money. So, we've built a range of industry leading features in how they log into the Wise account so that we can prevent account takeovers, how they use their card and how safe it is to, if you ever lose your card, you can always come into the app and freeze the card instantly. It's right there. It's very easy to use. Very few other financial institutions, I feel, offer such a service without having to call a customer service or something, right? So trust and just building around it has been core to what we do. And we'll continue to do that. But you're right, there's a trust that customers have built over a number of years with traditional banks. And again, we are trying to now say, hey, you don't need to leave that place. You can use Wise platform inside those traditional banks as well. The other element that actually helps with building this trust is always being transparent with our customers. So we always, every quarter, we send out a mission report to them, which is like, this is what we delivered for you. This is how our fees are. This is how fast we are, and this is where we are using the money that you're paying us. In fact, when you pay for when you transfer money with Wise, we tell you what your fees are being used for as well. So as a company, there's transparency built in, which I think also shows off in the trust that customers put in us.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the trust is so important, and it's obviously a huge important to Wise when you're mentioning those numbers of customers, but also those figures, monetary value. It's a huge amount of money,
Yeah.
to say the very least. So obviously there can't be any breaches, and anything like that obviously sends things over the edge. So it's great to see and to hear obviously Wise's incredible dedication to that trust. I wanted to speak a little bit more about SME customers. So we've spoken quite a lot about consumers. Actually, and I also wanted to make the point, just something then that was that the point that you're making, Surendra, was it seems to me there's a lot to do with communication and education of your customers. What sort of efforts do you go to really communicate? Like you're saying, you obviously sent out the quarterly paper, but the education as to these are the features that you have access to, is that quite challenging to get that information through to your customers? Or
I think, yeah, like a big part of our work is around educating customers on these hidden fees, right? Like you see this across the world. Like you go to an airport and there will be, shops that will be selling you zero commission, money exchange. But the truth is that there is a lot of hidden fees baked into the exchange rates that they are providing you.
yeah,
And people have traditionally never really looked into that. They see what's there on the surface and believe it, and go ahead with that money exchange. So what we've been trying to do is again twofold. One is doing this ourselves, like trying to educate customers again and again that you should be trying to compare what you get in the end, right? Like let's say if you're sending $1,000, what is it that the other person is getting on the other end? Why is it always transparent with it? That this is the exact amount that the other person is going to get. This is the fee that you're paying, and then this is the rate. Yeah, this is the rate that you're going to get, which you can cross-check by just Googling what the rate is, right?
yeah,
But there is obviously a lot of work to be done over here. The second piece of work that we do consistently across the world is working with regulators and different agencies, government agencies, to bring about this transparency in the market. We worked with the European Commission in the past to pass legislation which forces or which makes the traditional institutions and others actually disclose their fees. They have found a way around it to not disclose it, which is another matter. But there are institutions and government institutions which are now trying to bring about this change as well. And Wise is always at the forefront of giving them data, giving them examples of how deep rooted this problem of hidden fees is across the world. Now, we understand this is going to be a multi-year project. And again, we are building Wise as a generational company. We are not building it for a short term. We know we are
yes.
here to stay, and hence we can invest in these kinds of really long-term projects as well, of working with regulators, working with government agencies to actually change, this market for good for our consumers and businesses.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think I like that. I mean, it's a very, long-term vision, long-term goal, really changing the needle around fees. Yeah, it's it sounds like a huge job, but obviously someone's getting into it. I was mentioning before, and then I went back to that piece on that I was just speaking about before. But SMEs. So we've spoken a lot about the consumers. I want to speak a little bit about SMEs. Got some more stats to hit out, of course. And this is specifically to the UK. So SMEs in the UK obviously have a much greater digital appetite than consumers. Our research is showing us currently that 3 in 5 are not satisfied with the innovation from their provider. But unlike consumers, they actually, show that with their feet, right? They vote with their feet. 1 in 5 have switched in the last 5 years. They
Yeah.
have cited to us ease and convenience as well as reconciliation as the key drivers of choice when it comes to that SME payments and switching. So, what is Wise doing to maximise on that opportunity, looking at those SME businesses? And that, I mean, this is a UK question, but actually globally, it makes up such a huge portion of businesses, the SME sector.
I agree 100%. This is again very close to my heart because I've been investing a lot of time in trying to solve this. One interesting number that I'm also going to share is we very recently, actually, just a couple of months ago, we did this research in the UK that SMEs in the UK alone are losing about £3 billion a year to hidden fees.
Wow.
And your numbers kind of also, show that lots of SMEs are not satisfied with the services that they're getting, and it kind of boils down to these are small businesses trying to grow, and so they're trying to do a lot of things with very limited resources, right? Like they don't have the luxury of an enterprise business where they have an entire team handling variety of different things. So typically, what we've seen from feedback in our from these businesses is they want a solution which can allow them to not have to worry about their payment needs, right? It almost kind of takes a backseat and it becomes super convenient and saves them time, right? Like that's the key bit that they are, trying to solve for. That and typically, it kind of comes down to three main problems for them. One is, how do I receive money from my clients around the world in the cheapest, fastest possible manner? So with Wise, what we've offered them is this local account details that I was sharing earlier, which allows them to receive money like a local in 15 plus currencies. This is a truly powerful feature for international businesses because very few other providers, I would say, actually have this kind of breadth of currencies and also the kind of network or the infrastructure to make these receive payments happen instantly. So that's number one, like, managing their entire receivables. That's where it starts from. Like they need to be able to receive money from their clients easily and not have to wait for it, not have to pay exorbitant fees on it. Then the second part of it is managing this, right? Like, which means, as you said, like, their accounting and reconciliation needs and so on. And what we do over there is make it super simple for them to integrate into tools which they already use and love. So be it any accounting software like Xero and QuickBooks, they can quickly integrate into that. So their workflows don't necessarily change and they don't have to like, again, worry about this reconciliation piece a lot. And then the third piece comes into picture, which is when they have to pay their salaries or their vendors or different partners, and that's been our bread and butter for many years, right? Like we have a very
Yeah.
powerful send money functionality which allows them to send money like anywhere in the world to pay their vendors, and we also have a wonderful digital card or a debit card for them to pay when they need to pay with a card, right? So across these, variety of different products we offer, what we want to ultimately get to is for this small business to not have to worry about any of their financial needs. They can come to Wise as that one place to do all of it all for them in a very convenient manner, and
Mhm.
help them save time as well.
Yeah.
Today we have about 650,000 businesses using us. This is still one of the fastest growing areas for us. But we still see that this is actually a long way for us to go, right?
Mhm.
To solve for, I don't know, millions of small businesses that are around the world.
Yeah. Does Wise do a lot of re- customer research? I mean, research into your customer and what they need and they're looking for. It sounds like obviously do in that business space, but also in the consumer space. Like, how do you kind of gather all the information when you're saying, we really look at what they need?
Yeah.
How does that occur within the business?
I mean, it kind of it's there embedded in every single person who works at Wise that we
Yeah.
are talking to customers in different forms pretty much every day. Like, in my job itself, one of the key bits or key work that I do is actually listening to these customers. And there are various channels we use. Obviously, customers reach out to us through customer service, and we get their direct feedback. There is this whole channel where we can work through all of this feedback and actually feed this back into what we need to build for solving this problem for customers. So a lot of our products that we have built has actually come through with like customers telling us that, hey, I need to receive money from this place, or I need to spend money with a debit card when I'm launching a debit card. And the
Yeah,
second
okay.
thing we do, we actually go and speak to them as well. Like we reach out and we ask them that, hey, would you like to spend a few minutes with us, talk to us about what you're actually doing, just observe them and see what they do. That also brings about a different level of like understanding and like actually what is the true problem
Mm,
that they are trying to solve. And especially in the case of businesses, that's what we realized, that when we actually sat next to them and saw them, trying to struggle through five different apps and websites to do the work that they need to do. Like, you realize that actually it's the inconvenience of using so many tools that is really bothering them, rather than just the price of what they end up paying, but also the amount of time that they end up spending
yeah. It's
to
back to that
reconcile.
ease and convenience, isn't it?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
just
yeah.
streamline. I mean, people just want things to be simple. Keep it simple.
Exactly, and especially for people who are time strapped, right? Like, and
Yeah,
so for consumers, I feel like the price and speed we offer is extremely powerful because they do save a lot of money, and then the speed with which the transfers happen is also delightful to them. For businesses, we've seen obviously price and speed matters. For a small business that's losing a lot of money in hidden fees, but then on top of that, they are also very, very careful about like or they care about how convenient this product is and how much time it's going to save them.
yeah, for sure. Okay, well, we're going to wrap up soon. Always goes really quickly, but it was such a pleasure to grab some of your time. What's next? What's the big sort of horizon goals for you in 2024, for example? What's going to make you have a awesome year?
Um, so as I was saying earlier, like I think the assets product,
Yeah,
this is still in limited places. Like if you can roll this out in Australia, for instance, a lot of our other major markets, I would be particularly very happy. Then the Wise Business product, again, as I said, like on the consumer side, we are moving 5% of the world's money, but on the business side, we're moving much less. So I
yeah,
want us to get to a significant number there and solve this problem for SMEs because they do end up suffering the most, in all of the different business
yeah,
segments. And then with Wise Platform, one of the things that I'm most excited about is again embedding Wise Platform inside some of these bigger traditional banks,
yeah,
and then suddenly we open up access to the platform that we've built for millions of customers, right? Like with just one integration. So I'm really excited to see what this year brings us. I think we will end up being embedded in few more of these traditional banks, and that'll be pretty cool to see actually.
awesome. Well, we'll watch the headlines then. I'm sure we'll see some things coming across the news headlines in the coming year. Thanks, Surendra. Thank you so much for your time, for coming on Banking Uncovered. It's always great to speak with such an awesome product, standout fintech. Obviously, such an interesting space for traditional banks, but for the fintech scene too. So thanks for your time and wishing you all the best.
Thank you for having me, Chloe. It was wonderful to speak to you.